It is Friday, August 14th, 2020. Got a lot of news we want to cover today. Right out of the gate here, let's lead with this. The stimulus deal has failed. Congress has failed to reach a stimulus deal. But here is the sad truth. Even if they pass a deal for another stimulus check, in most parts of the country, it's not going to last very long. It may get you a month's rent if you're lucky. And we know just from the last video report that we did that 1 in 3 people cannot pay either their rent or their mortgage. If it were not for the moratoriums and the restrictions on evictions, we would have already seen massive carnage. Now, why would the Congress and the Senate not get this approved, get this out to the people? Well, here's part of it. This is Senate.gov. We go over here to the salaries of the senators. Up until now, it's $174,000. So these people that make these decisions that are not making a deal, yes, there is a lot of left versus right politics involved, but if they were making $35,000 a year, I could bet you that they would be of a different thought process. And let's take a look right here out of Yahoo News. Consumer prices up in July, pushed by automobiles. So we have automobiles, prices rising. We have home prices now at all-time highs and still rising, even amid this recession, this shutdown-induced recession. Right? Normally, when you see such devastation with people's incomes, so many people unemployed, normally you see deflation. But the powers that be, the string pullers, the monopoly men, they're not allowing that to happen. We have the moratoriums, the assistance that's given out, the stimulus checks. If they would just let things play out naturally, what's known as a free market, then you would see price discovery. You would see prices correct to what people can actually afford. But when you endlessly liquefy the banks and when you allow the banks to loan out as much money as they want to without any reserve requirements, well, you're going to see rising demand and therefore rising prices. It's pretty simple. And some people say, well, no, they can't just let prices collapse. That'll be even more devastating for the economy. Well, at first, yes, it would be devastating. People would lose their homes. People would be on the street. But then the empty buildings and empty apartments and empty homes would be filled up with renters at a lower price, because when no one has the money to afford it, then it's going to sit empty until the owner or until the landlord lowers the price enough to where people can afford it. It's called supply and demand. And the powers that be, again, are not letting that play out. There's no way to tell the true value or the true cost of anything. Maybe rents would need to be 25% of where they are now. Maybe 10%. Nobody knows, because, again, we don't have a way to find out, because the natural market is not allowed to operate. Right? There is no free market. There is no capitalism. It's only crony socialism. Some people call it crony capitalism, but we're seeing a lot of socialism and record spending, record deficits, record debt. But the problem is a lot of that's just going up to the top 10%. Another article here points this out pretty well. Crone.com, the recession is over for the rich, but the working class, they're far from recovered. So we see the rich, a lot of them came in and bought the dip in the stock market. When you have billions of dollars in your portfolio, a lot of times you have cash on the side to jump into markets when price is correct. We saw it in the housing market after the housing market tanked after 2008. We saw many institutions, corporations, billionaires come in and buy up thousands of homes. And some billionaires famously sat out this dip or this sell-off that we started seeing back in March. But a lot of people got rich from that drop and that recovery, and it was a V-shaped recovery in the stock market. It's just too bad we're not seeing that in the working class on the Main Street economy. So Wall Street, the rich, they have recovered. The recession is over for them, for most of them. A lot of the bottom 90% and the working class are still waiting for stimulus checks. And think about all the businesses closing down, the small businesses especially, the restaurants, the clubs, the hotels, the hospitality industry. Those are very low-wage jobs typically, and those were the areas that were hardest hit. So the lowest wage earners, were hit the hardest with unemployment. We saw most layoffs in that area, that sector. All right, but also there's a lot more work at home positions for upper management and executive level positions where people, again, on the front lines, the servers, the cooks, the hotel front desk people, they have to be in there physically. They cannot work from home, many of them. And I actually read a report that 60% of upper management positions were able to work from home, transition into a home office. But when you look at the front line people, only about 20% of them were able to work remotely. Right? So the situation where the rich get rich and the poor get poorer continues to get worse and escalate through this shutdown recession. Speaking of Congress and overpaid politicians, the stimulus stalemate could drag on for weeks as Congress leaves town. So they get to take vacation with their 100,000 plus salaries. And again, this is what happens when the people that make these decisions are no longer part of the middle class. They can no longer relate to the average American. And keep in mind, if the country wasn't allowed to go into endless debt, there would be no way to pay these people this much money. So the solution is to stop spending, let the system correct, let prices correct, let salaries correct, right? Many jobs would be lost, but new jobs would emerge. It's called a correction for a reason. The powers that be, the monopoly men, the money masters, the string pullers, they are not allowing the market to correct, right? Many of these pencil pusher jobs or these money shuffler jobs, these office jobs, many of those jobs would be gone. My job happens to be one of them. I'm waiting for the day where I'll have to find a new job. It's okay to transition. It's called a correction. When the correction happens, if the big corporation that I work for closes down, I'll have to find a new job. It's not the end of the world. The problem is prices are being propped up via the inflation machine, via the money printers. Right? So they come in, they cause the problem, they cause the inflation, they cause the malinvestment, and then they come in with more of the same as the solution. When I would need to pump more money into the banking system, we'll just send out some stimulus checks. And I'm not blaming anybody for getting a stimulus check. You'd have to be crazy not to take the free money. It's printed out of nothing. It's printed out of thin air. There's no reason to feel guilty for that, especially when you see the outrageous profits and salaries for some of these individuals. But it's not a long-term solution, and what they're doing is they're keeping everyone dependent on the money machine until finally everyone is begging and groveling at the shoes of the fiat funny money bankers. It's absolutely insane. All right, quick shot at the markets here again. August 14th, Friday, 2020. All major indexes either up or down just fractionally. Gold took a bit of a hit there, down to 1941. Oil holding above $42. Silver, $26.55. We're seeing a little bit of a consolidation there in the metals. And it would be my estimate that we're going to see it march higher. I'm not giving investment advice because manipulation can happen. They can throw a lot of paper at these items, these commodities, and in the markets in general. But overall, we've seen central banks position for this, for rising metals, because they have been buying metals themselves. And that's why for many years we've been saying, get yourself some metals. If you have a little bit extra to invest, maybe start dipping your toes into it instead of buying a $30 dinner, instead of going out to eat, instead of going to a movie. Maybe the movies are closed. Maybe instead of going to a drive-in movie, paying to watch some actor that makes millions of dollars, maybe buy a couple rounds of silver. And there's a link down below if you'd like to help out the channel. You can hedge yourself against hyperinflation, against the destruction of the dollar, and, in my opinion, to the new monetary system that's going to emerge after this fiat system collapses. And we are in the early innings of this collapse, in my opinion, so still time to prepare and get ready for what's coming our way. Everybody, thanks for watching this report. Hope everybody's well. Have a great weekend. If you're having a tough time, if you're out of work, if you are broke, be thankful if you have your health. If you're not healthy, use this time to try to get into better shape. I know it's tough. People are missing meals. People are living out of RVs, campers, and tents, unfortunately. And we could see it get much worse before it gets better. I just pray for this country. I pray for everybody listening. And if you could spread the word about this monetary system, about the actual cause, the real cause, not what they're telling us on the news channels. Tell them what we talk about here. Try to educate people as much as you can, so people understand what caused this. It wasn't just the shutdown that escalated it, but the entire economic system is designed to fail, and it is failing. Everybody, thanks for watching. Bye for now.